Oh, hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 263, I'm very lucky, privileged to have Marques Ogden on the podcast today. He is a ex-NFL player. He is a international, national keynote speaker, three-time bestseller, author, business coach, business consultant, brand ambassador, podcast host, and and you know what? He occasionally flies around and saves people from burning buildings. Uh, what else do you do, sir? How are you today?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My God, man, you are what can I say? A busy, busy, busy bee, as life goes. Like, yeah. But I have to ask, from someone who graduated from Howard University as, like, yeah, one of the most valuable players going into the NFL, which is a rare thing indeed. What, how on earth did you get involved in football in the first place?
So I started playing football my freshman year of high school. My brother played football in the seventh grade. At his school, they had football in middle school and high school. Where I went to school, we didn't have football in middle school. We had basketball. So I played 1 year of basketball my eighth grade year. Then I started playing football as a freshman in high school. And I fell in love with the game because my brother at the time was a big time college football player. He was actually drafted in 1996, number 4 overall by the Baltimore Ravens. So being around him and the love of the sport and trying to, looking up to my older brother, that's how I got involved in football at such a young age. I got that not a young age. That's how I got involved in football. I was in high school.
Like, okay, yeah. So you and your older brother, two football players. Like, I feel sorry for your family. You want to know why? Because look, okay, for one child to like go through football to get into the NFL, that's an achievement in itself. For two, that's like, okay, what were you being fed? I can only imagine like what the grocery bill was like in your household on a
That's
day to
funny.
day. No, but
That's
it's true.
funny.
Come on now.
No, you're right. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot, but that's how we were raised by a single father. So having him put us in that position to be in football, to learn the game and all that was really impactful for us at a young age.
Mm, I see. I see. Like you see how you cunningly just like skirted past how much that food bill came on a like sort of week to week basis.
It wasn't cheap, but it definitely wasn't cheap. That's for sure.
I can imagine it's like there's like these boys, man, they best make something like out of their lives. I swear to God. so so when like I have to ask through your sort of football career, because like this is the thing, like going in as a freshman all the way up to basically an NFL football player. You were in the NFL for 5 seasons, right?
Almost 6 years. Yep.
Yeah, that is a healthy chunk of time for anyone. Now, what would you say were the sort of lessons you picked up from when you were a freshman and then basically going to college and then basically getting into the NFL? What would you say were the biggest takeaways
The
from
biggest things I learned is how to adjust to the speed of the game. So I played football in high school. It was very,
it?
very slow. Got to college, the speed got faster. Then when I got to NFL, I was like, wow, college is nothing compared to the NFL. So
Mm,
the players that do well in the National Football League coming from college to the NFL, they do a really nice job adjusting to the speed of the game. It's so much faster as you go up, high school to college, college to NFL. So if you want to be the best in your sport of football, you better
uh-huh.
learn how to adjust and be quick about adjusting to the speed of the game because that's going to be what I call your precipice of being either a good football player in the NFL that makes it, or a guy that comes in for a short career and you're out.
I'm interesting, very interesting. Because like this is the thing, like, okay, college football compared to college football today, in my mind, it's gone through this weird sort of evolution. Like because when you were a player, you can like benefit from your likeness, your image, or anything like this. You were just a player getting like, yeah, getting a scholarship. Now, today, if you're a player, you can like if it's only been recently, not that long, maybe
It's been about maybe 6 months or so. Something it hasn't been more than 6 months that you can start making money as an athlete off your name. Yes.
And because like this is the thing, what is your like? Do you agree with people being able to do that now, players doing that now, or is it one of those things like it's taken away from the purity of the game?
No, I agree they should be able to make money because who knows if they're going to make it to the NFL? Who knows if they're going to make it to college? But what I also want to come along with the money is the financial literacy and education so they understand as they're making money, they're going to get taxed on it and they're going to have to put stuff away. So if you put several $100,000 or $1 million in a high school kid's hands, I got no problem with that. Just make sure you're educating that young athlete, male or female, male and or female, so they understand the ramifications of if they don't properly budget and or fiscally plan that.
Oh, Marcus, you dropped out for a moment there. You were like you were going at it, and then your voice dropped out.
Yeah. So again, I want to make sure if you give these young athletes, male and or female, money, that they have the financial education so they don't get into financial trouble as a result of making this money.
Now, this is the thing. Now, this is like as much as you being a NF, like basically going from high school to college to the NFL, that is not the most interesting aspect of your life by any means. It seems like the reason why I'm sort of like going through this quickly is because your life really sort of kicked off in my mind after the lights and glamour of the football like field stopped. And yeah, what kind of how did you find your direction after football? Because you've in a real structured environment to nothing.
So I found my structure after football, after about 6 months of being an alcoholic, being a pain popping, addict, nightlife, gambling. I finally said enough's enough. And I got into construction because I wanted to take a little bit of knowledge I had about business. Well, it wasn't much, but it was a little bit, and try my hat at entrepreneurship. I didn't want to go work for anybody. I didn't want to go be that. I wanted to just be an entrepreneur. So that was the whole facet of it. And I got into construction because I was chasing big dollars, but also I met my business partner. And after meeting him, that's when we got into construction at the highest level of commercial in site work. Let me go back, not site work. We started off in concrete, demolition, then we evolved to site work, utilities, grading, sediment erosion control, because there was a gap. And once that happened, we stepped into that gap that was left by one of my mentors going out of business. And then we became the largest African-American subcontractor in the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland doing that work, concrete, demolition, site work, site utilities. We were an 8-figure business at our height.
8-figure business. How long did it take you to become an 8-figure business?
About 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Like I can imagine those days where, like, how can I say? Yeah, just working 9 to 5, just getting up, just like, yeah, doing your 5-day week. And like, yeah. And yeah, just that was it. Nice and easy. What was your typical week like?
Oh, I mean, in construction, man, you were up I was at the gym by 5, finished by 6:30. I would be at the yard by 6:45. And we start the day, man. I mean, construction starts at like 7 a.m. So you get your guys out of the office, fueled up, go to the job sites. If you have to move equipment, move the equipment, do all the stuff and talk to the general, the superintendents on site, or talk to the foreman or the generals on site, and work with the different subs and make sure if you're demoing out, if you're hauling out dirt, you have to have your truckers lined up. You have to make sure that you're not blocking the street. You have to make sure that you have all your safety equipment, your OSHA. I mean, it went on and on and on. So we would work from like 7 a.m. We wouldn't be done till like, sometimes 5 or 6 p.m. And sometimes we have to work overtime. With time we work to like, 7 or 8 p.m. So construction was a lot of money, but I'll tell you, it was super hard work.
Yes, not your typical 9 to 5, like
No.
Monday to Friday. So, like, what was was there anything like new skills you picked up when you started doing that? Because like, this is the thing, being on the field, being part of a team, being like either leading a section or like, sitting back. What was the sort of things like constructions or like, hey, you got to come to work, son?
So what I picked up was the importance of leadership, because if you didn't have a good culture, you weren't going to have good people running the organization. So I learned a lot about teamwork, culture, and I actually have a keynote now, which is titled Recycling versus Trash in Company Culture, because a lot of organizations right now are dealing with people that are some in the office, some not. Some want to come back to work, some don't. Some, want a social distance, some don't. Some people wear masks, some don't. I mean, it's just all over the place. So we get hired a lot right now to help organizations try to realign their culture, where it's not something that is just what I call a continual shift, negative here, there, or back and forth, because there's no stability. I tell my clients, positive innovation will drive a healthy and systemic positive culture.
I hear that. And like, this is the thing. The reason why I'm going down this path, because look, it 3 years to build it up to an 8-figure business, right? And in my research, I was quite shocked at what went wrong and how quickly did it go wrong.
So what went wrong is that I ended up getting egocentric. I ended up getting so just caught up in my own success and making my own money and trying to do this and trying to do that. And because my ego became the biggest killer of me, it drove a culture of toxicity, negativity, and doubt. And once that happened, my best employees left. When my best employees left, I took on a job for a big client for $4 million. And I spent about an extra $3 million of extra money, unexpected. It should have been change order work. But when I was denied the change order by the developer and the contractor, that's why I went into bankruptcy, and I lost everything in 2013.
I know you most probably been asked this time and time before, but to go from like knowing so much success to all of a sudden going bankrupt, how did that leave you? How did that make you feel at the time?
It made me feel worthless, because I just met my wife, and my girlfriend became my wife and my stepdaughter, and I ended up just losing everything that I owned. And I had to come down here to Raleigh with no money, no plan, kind of like my tail between my legs, and just feeling like a complete failure and a complete bust. So when I lost everything, my friend, it was like a ton of bricks, metaphorically and literally, just fell on top of my head. Because when I got down here, I had to start over from complete rock bottom.
Like complete bottom. Because like, this is the thing, people always like to champion and talk about their success and everything like this. how everything was like going right for them, and like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I had the victory dance and the smiles all around. But when it comes to like the failures and like, yeah, when life throws that sort of that blindside kick to the face, it's like, and picking yourself up from that is never easy, and it's one of those things people really seldomly talk about. Like, so how did you sort of overcome that sort of those bricks, that ton of bricks which hit you?
So I overcame them by working two different jobs, and I was fired from those jobs in the same week. Ended up working as a custodian in downtown Raleigh for $8.25 an hour. And I ended up getting somebody's trash and rotten garbage, rotten meat all over my body, my skin, and my clothes. And that was my wake up call. And that made me realize if I don't make a change today, the rest of my life will be right here, always blaming other people, saying, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, this should have happened, this should have happened. And so I made the choice to get my life back on track after that. And I realized there was no accountability, no responsibility in my life. And that got me moving in the right direction. And once I got that going and I figured out what I wanted to do, I said, I'm a good storyteller, I'm a good communicator, and I like to help people. Let's be a speaker. And I launched my speaking career in September 2013. Didn't get a paid job for the first 2.5 years because I was all about myself and no value and just trying to talk and talk and talk and not bring any real substance. Got my first paid job April 2016 with the Miller College in Wilmington, North Carolina. I then went ahead and got to the next level and got coached and got better. So in the last 6 years, 6.5 years almost, since our first paid job, we've now worked for 40 Fortune 500 companies as a speaker, 40. And we have completely turned ourselves around. We've worked for people like Firestone or Home Depot or Equitable or New York Life. And we've turned our pain into our purpose of helping others get realigned so they can actually learn from our mistakes. I tell my clients, hire me speaking, coaching, consulting, brand ambassador, whatever, so you don't end up like me.
Mm. How did you keep your faith with regards to that sort of 2 to 3 years without us, like, you know what I mean, without a paid job while you were speaking?
Oh, it was hard. I mean, it was really hard. And what I learned is that if I'm going to be out here trying to educate people or enlighten people, that I got to be real with my story. And I was kind of glancing over my failures and saying, well, I did this wrong, but I didn't really get into like the meat of the ego that was my fault and the lack of discipline and the lack of focus and the lack of treating people with respect and the lack of discipline. I kind of glanced over that stuff. Once I started to actually make that part of what I call my custom suit story, that's when people started saying, okay, Marques, I can relate to this. I can relate to that. So we have a podcast. It's called the Get Authentic with Marques Show. Our first episode came out June 22nd of 2022. We got on Apple on July 6th of 2022. And we're already in the top 2.5% most listened to podcasts in the world after only a month. That's it. Because we focus on authentic stories. I had another podcast I was doing for a while. We got to the top 1.5% after about 7 or 8 months. But that show was more sports-based. This one, we interview all types of people, athletes, business owners, executives, same as our last show. But this time around, we're focusing on the authentic stories of people. We're not getting into all the glitz, the glamour, all the things they've done well. We're talking about that, but we're not making that the sole focus. And as a result of that, people are connecting with us in that regard. And it's actually making our podcast grow rapidly up the charts because not just men love it, not just women, not just young, not just old. It's men and women, young and old, from all types of backgrounds. We're listening to people in UK and Ireland and Canada, New Zealand, Australia, these, people, where was it? Sweden, like they're tuning in because they hear the authentic message. And if you can get that going on a major scale, then you really got something special with the podcast.
I think it's a thing where people really are trying to get in contact with their authentic self. I think a number of because there is, how can I say, highlight reels from if you look at Instagram and quite a lot of social media, people feel like that sort of sense of authenticity is lacking in the world, but they're trying to still find it within themselves. And if you can help do that for people, that's always a good thing. And yeah, help them find their sort of true path or purpose,
Absolutely. And again, you want to help people find their real voice. And our podcast is all about, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are man, woman, white, black, UK, America. I don't care. If you have an amazing story and you're willing to share it in an authentic way, you are the perfect guest for our show.
So with this, like finding your authentic self, like you've gone through, yes, you've gone through losing the business, finding the business, and yeah, would you say you're that much closer to finding your authentic self? Or are you still on that quest?
Oh, I mean, always on the quest, but I'm much closer today because what I realized is that I don't care who you are, we all have problems, right? But the people that are willing to share their problems in an authentic way, and again, not a way where you want to feel sorry for somebody or anything, in a way in which you learn from someone. And I'm not about you feeling sorry for me that I lost it all and I had to restart my life over. I don't want you to feel sorry for me, right? That's not what I'm looking for. I want you to actually learn from me so that you can be better than me. That's what it's all about. Because when you're better than me, then I know you're not going to make the same mistakes that I did. And that's huge.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. This is the thing. I always say, yeah, it's important to be present in like in a room in someone's life. When we lack that presence, that's when we sort of get distracted and basically fall away. Without that, you can't get that focus you need on a day-to-day basis, where you quite often miss out on the sort of small details, which could lead you down a greater path. Would you agree?
Oh, I agree. Oh, absolutely. Because what you should be about is sharing the real you so people will learn from the real you so that they can be better than you. Like that's really what it's about. Because when people hire our brand, right, they have a problem and they want it resolved, they want a solution. Well, how do you help people solve problems? You be real, you be authentic, you be vulnerable, and you do what? Help them solve the problem with either your education experience and or your life knowledge experience, which is why we're so blessed. We've got jobs coming up in August in Orlando, Florida for the National Realtors Association. We've got a job coming up for Lindenwood University up in St. Charles, Missouri. We've got a job coming up for Carson Wealth in Las Vegas. We've got one for the Michigan Society of Healthcare Engineers in Michigan. We've got coming up with, got to go back to Carson and then got to go to Nashville for Firestone and all these things, because that's what we're about. And so again, when I do podcasts, I'm really about just sharing with me. But now that we have our own podcast that's fast-paced growing, I like sharing why I feel it's doing so well, because it's not about one type of person. It's not about one type of industry. It's about anybody that has one main theme, authentic story that's willing to share.
Indeed, indeed. Are you okay, Marques? Because you seem a little bit distracted.
Oh, no. I'm good. And here's what I do is I took a note of what you asked me, because what I do is on my own podcast, I like to ask certain questions. And the question you asked me about, am I authentic who I am, or am I on that journey? I'm actually going to bring that up in my next podcast that I do with my Ultra on Friday, because I think it's really important that people understand that you should always be on the journey. But if you're not willing to say that you can always get better at being authentic, then I feel you're not authentic in yourself. So it's something. I'm actually interviewing somebody that is big in the concussion space. And I want to bring this up because I'm interviewing him and a client of mine. And I want to really ask them about how they got into the work of helping athletes with CTE, because a lot of people don't want to do that because it's a very touchy subject. So your question was really good. And that's why I took a note so I didn't forget, because I want to ask it on my own podcast when I interview somebody on Friday.
Okay. Yeah, no. Like the reason why I was like, okay, like have I got his attention? Is he still with me?
Oh, no, I'm with you. No, I'm with you, because it was such a good question that I wanted to use. Because again, that's something that I feel that I can even do a better job of, is asking people, hey, are you authentic right now? Or are you trying to get there? And if you say I'm there and you're not trying to get there, then I feel you're maybe not telling me the whole truth. Because if you stop trying to, advance in your life, then I feel that's when you're not going to move into the right direction.
With regards to advancing in one's life, people often mistake advancement with grand, huge moves when it can just be now down to like simple processes, small steps. Because like if you're doing like 2% to improve your life on a day-to-day basis and you do that consistently, you are so much more ahead of where you were before. Even if you fall back a little bit, you will still be ahead of where you were before. And I think people like go, okay, if I'm not making a great big change, it's like, right, give yourself 100 days. And if you've like consistently hit that 2%, you 200% better than you were before,
It's kind of like I interviewed somebody on our show earlier today, one of my old clients. She's a very successful realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right outside of right in Texas. Yeah. And she talked about don't try to don't try to eat the whole elephant. Take it one bite at a time. And you're talking about trying to get better every day. I think that's all about taking the small action steps that are necessary to get to that next level every day. And a lot of people don't want to engage in that because they're so focused on trying to, like you said, make this big grand gesture. In reality, you should focus on the small steps to get from A to B, B to C. This way, you're actually, how do I say this? You're actually like attaining victories every day, and it builds a stronger mindset to go every day. And like, take me in speaking, like, you're not going to get a speaking job every day. I mean, that'd be awesome unless you're Tony Robbins, something like that. You're not going to get a job every day for 20 grand or 25 or 100. It's just not going to happen. But you have to work and do things every day. Market, post on social, talk about people, build a strategy, go over your website. What is this and what is that? Do your podcast recordings, make sure your podcast is coming, all these different things, right? And then eventually you'll get jobs for 10 grand or that grand or 15 because you've been working towards that overall goal. So I like how you said, just try to get better every single day and not focus on the big grand gesture, because the big grand gesture can really get us in trouble because we're not focusing on trying to get to the next level. We're trying to get this whole big, grand scheme, or this big grand, hurrah, which, a lot of times it's not really what we want anyway, because it's not going to get us to that next level.
And like, this is the thing, like the thing what fascinates me with you, because you've gone completely all over the spectrum, you know what I mean? Like, okay, working as a janitor, getting paid $8.25, being being a coach, doing both jobs, being a coach and a janitor, to like sort of help you on a sort of day-to-day basis. It's just like, yeah, to see it go from like the highs to the lows. And like, this is the thing, I would imagine from going from football, then going into your construction business, you most probably, like economically speaking, you most probably even went even higher still, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the one of our signature custom keynotes is titled "From Eight Figures to." I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back. It's titled "The Ego Mistake: From Eight Figures to 825 per hour," and it talks about resiliency, perseverance, but it's built off of how my ego got in the way and took me off track. And as a result of that, I ended up losing everything and having to start over. And what's really interesting to me is that where I'm at today, I have problems, things happen, all types of personal business, it happens, right? But what I've learned is that I'll never again let my ego cause me to crash and burn. I have a very large network of people, both friends and professional. If I need something, what I've learned in my first business failure, because you talk your day in, day out podcast, I've learned that in the day in the past, I relied on just me and my ego. Now, the day out, like I'm looking outwards, I look at my network of empowerment, I look at my resources. This way, I don't put myself into a box where I feel that if I need something, I don't know how to ask. So today, forget the money that we've made, forget all that stuff, right? If I lost everything today, had to start over, can I rebuild? Yes, because I did it the first time I didn't know anybody. This time I could do it a lot faster because I have a network, because the quality of my work won't be affected by if I make money or not. Things happen. People lose money all the time and you lose all this type of stuff. And I really wanted this to people to hear this because this is exactly what we talk about on our podcast. We talk about the authentic stories, the real people, what they've gone through, the challenges, the loss, the failures. I had a guy on the podcast, he was an NFL vet for 7 years. He was sexually and physically and mentally abused from the age of 4 to 12. He didn't tell anybody about it until he was 24 years old. So again, like those are the type of things, right? And so what I'm getting at is that in order to really get yourself to that next level, right? And I love your podcast name, you have to be willing to look outward, right? You got to look inside you to figure out, okay, how can I do this? How can I get myself going? I got to get myself self-started. But if you're going to actually build anything of substance, you got to go day out. You got to look outwards, because if you're trying to do it all by yourself, either going to take you a long time or you'll never get there.
Yeah, like this is the thing. I think if people have been on sort of sporting teams or like they've served in some sort of service, like military, police, ambulance, wherever, like they have sometimes a better idea of knowing that you need other people to sort of help you through that day to day. But I think quite a lot of the times, even people sort of put themselves out on this island by themselves and think, yes, I'm the strength, I am the power, I am the knowledge. And they don't use a network. They don't take advantage of those things which come with a network of people which might know better, which people might have better connections, and which can help them strive. Like with that, would you just what would you say to people about that? Just to build a network as quickly as possible, just willy-nilly, or like be focused with it?
Be focused and strategic in who you create a network with. And be very careful who you tell your true subconscious inner thoughts to, because if you tell it to the wrong person, they'll use it against you. So building a network fast and quick is not going to do it. We've been speaking now for 9 years. So we have a network of people that I can go to for business or for help or for guidance, and again, because if I needed money, right, I could go to a client and say, hey man, I'm struggling a little bit with this, dimes. Okay, Marcus, all right, now we know you can do these things for us. You've done it before, or we know your reputation. How can you help us solve a problem right now? Like, what does that look like? What's the solution you can bring to the table, right? These are the type of conversations you need to be having with people as you're building the right network. Because here's the thing, a network, a true network, that's really an empowerment network. It's not that they're there when you don't need them. They're there when you need them, but regardless if you need them or not, they're always there. And I know that sounded weird, but you got to really look at you. It's like you don't want them, you don't want to bother them when you don't need them, right? You need them when you need help or assistance to lean on, but you really want people in your network that are there for you, whether you need them or not. That's the determining factor, because once you understand that they're there for you, then that's when you can always rely on them.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And like, this is the thing. Sometimes I also think people, like a lot of people, like, build a network. That's great. That's fantastic. But how can that network just benefit me? It's like they don't really sort of, I don't think they sometimes understand. It's like, yeah, as much as you take, you
gotta
must
give. You gotta give.
Yeah. And I think people get caught up in the receiving rather than the giving, you know?
Again, you want people that you know can be there for you if you need them or not. So basically, if you need them, then you're taking, right? You're getting. If you don't need them, you should be giving. And that's what it's about. Like, you need to have that type of relationship where you don't want them to need you, right? Like, you want to keep giving and giving and giving so that if you do need something, they're not going to hesitate. So this is why I tell people you got to look at it both ways. When you don't need them, you should be giving to them whenever you can. Because if you do need them, they should then should be reciprocity where they give to you at that time.
Yeah, like I think that all ties in with, like, yes, you have a network and everything like this, but it's also ties in with, like, you have to be, like, in some regards, a servant to your sort of greater community. And if you can't be that servant to your greater community, whatever sort of ambitious hopes, desires you have for yourself, and that where you want to go, I think you will truly fail. And when you are that servant, like helping other people out there, countless people, I'll say the more people you can help serve, the greater the opportunity to make that dream, your ambitions thrive, you know?
Well said.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you see it, it's in plain sight, but it's one of those things where not many people actually take advantage. Well, not many people act upon it, if you get what I mean.
I agree, because a lot of people are about themselves. You have to put others before self. And if you don't do that, you won't have a successful business. Because people find out you're only about self or the transactional sale, you're done. Every client that I work with, my coaching clients, consulting clients, I look at them as friends. And I can go to them with information, business struggles, personal struggles, life, whatever, to express what's going on. Because I have that relationship where it's not just business. It started off as business, then it developed into friendship and actual people that I know I can count on. And that's how you need to treat the network. When you do that, that's when great things will come your way.
Like, so, like with this, like you've had rapid expansion with your podcast and things are going well. What would you say has been a challenge for you in 2022?
The challenge has just been balancing time, personal, family, business, because there's only so much time, there's only 24 hours in a day. So for me, it's learning how to balance time better so I can be more efficient and present in places, family, business, personal, etc. So that's a challenge. And what I'm trying to do is continue to bring on the right people, implement the right systems, and then from there, allow the people I'm working with to give me back my time. And that's why I'm so excited about the podcast growth, because you grow the podcast, people start sponsoring you for big, big checks, stuff like that. You can then bring on more people. You can then get more systems in place. And then from where you get what? More of your time back, right? I look at Joe Rogan, phenomenal. I mean, that makes $40, $50 million a year with the podcast. But Joe can also go and do, MMA ringside. He can go be a comedian. Why? Because he's built a system with his podcast, made a lot of money off it. And he does what? He uses that money to funnel what? His other systems. So that's what we're trying to do. And we're excited because the podcast has just been well received. We only have about 8 episodes right now. 9 comes out tomorrow. That's it. 8. And we're in the top 2.5% in the world with only 8 episodes. That's it.
Are you doing are you paying for ads or anything like that? Or is it just
not right now? No, what we're doing is we're getting some amazing guests. And because I had another show, it helps. But right now, we're actually going to start buying some ads in September to help even more, which is great. But what happens is we get some great guests, retired players, the NFL, all the stuff. But we have a really nice network on LinkedIn and other socials. But what's happening is because we had another show that did well, people are coming over. And this show is so different. They like the theme. They like the setup. And because they like the interview style, the questions, they're telling other people. Because we have almost 95-star ratings and over 40 reviews on Apple since July 6th. We only had 180 of our other show 5-star ratings in about a year. It took up almost a year. We have almost half of that in a month. So so again, people are just loving the show, and they're loving the interviews, they're loving the guests, they're loving the setup. And so they're listening, they're subscribing, they're 5-starring, they're telling people. And again, you go back to your network. I don't ask people to do that stuff. I ask them to check out and subscribe if they like it, but I don't ask them to listen to this now or don't talk to me. I don't do any of that, right? And because it's an authentic, genuine message, people are falling in love with what we're doing.
I'm glad to hear it. This is the thing. What sort of knowledge would you say? You've had a podcast before, which was down to the sports side of things. What knowledge did you bring over from there over to the new podcast?
You know what? From the sports side, didn't really bring anything over. On the leadership side, brought over the ability to just shut up and let people talk. The best leaders don't talk. They sit, they listen, they observe, they process, and they go. The ODOT loop model, they observe, they orient, they make a decision, and they act. So on this show, it's all about the guest, right? And because I'm the solo host, I don't have to bounce questions to my other show. I had a podcast co-host, which was great. But I had to bounce things over to him, let him ask questions. And so from there, you have somebody ask you a bunch of questions. It cuts down on what? The guest speak time. Now we don't have that. And I'm asking questions that I feel make some type of concise follow through to what that person said before, and it flows better. And as a result, people are much more amped to listen and rate. And I had people who listened to my first podcast that didn't write reviews. They didn't do 5-star ratings. They listened to the show here and there, but they didn't take time to write reviews or give us a rating because they said, "Oh, it's fine," but it wasn't I had one guy named Jeff, great guy. Jeff said, "Marcus, your first show was okay. It wasn't great, it was okay. This show, it's on another level." So he rated it, he gave a review, and he's telling everybody about it. And that's the difference.
Bringing in oh, hello.
Hold on a second.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Welcome back. Busy. So with that, building the podcast and basically building these different systems, how did you start to form your team for your speaking business, or is it just you by yourself?
No, we started off with my business partner. Her name is Dawn. We met on LinkedIn. She came to one of my events, and then we built a team around that. And then we've got a website person, an SEO person. Now we this to this, that to that. And we just started building to that next level, to that next regard. So it was a process that we had, but it started with Dawn, who helped us to grow and develop. And then from there, we got a website person, then we got a videographer, then we got a trademark and patent person, then we got, all these things. And from there, it just went up and up and up to where we're at now. We have a full team with an internal manager, an external manager, videographer, trademark and patent person. We're bringing on a marketing manager, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because this is where I think a lot of people fall down as well, because like they go, okay, I want to do this. I want to like have this like grand plan or this dream, but they don't actually bring like they don't, one, have a network, and two, most importantly, they don't actually start forming a team because they're doing it all by themselves. They kind of like don't have that sort of capacity because look, you, as you said earlier, there's 24 hours in a day. If you don't sleep, let's say, you know what I mean? It's like, so if you're getting, say, let's get 12 hours a day out of the whole day to get everything done. You as an individual have 12 hours. Like now, if we looked at, say, someone like Oprah Winfrey, who's got like huge teams of people and everything like this, she's not operating with 12 hours. She's operating with everyone else's 12 hours. And that gets multiplied like through and through and through. How many people are like, there's 4 people in your team, or is it 5?
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have like 8.
8. So yeah, that is like, you know what I mean?
And not including our podcast team. We part with NFL alumni, so that doesn't include all of our producers and all of that because they help produce the show and everything in that regard.
Wow. So it's a large order to deal with, and like trying to keep everything into place, and you know what I mean, keeping one's ego in check, because sometimes I can imagine that your ego must really say, hey buddy, remember me? Let's go.
You got that right.
Yeah, like with those sort of days where everything's going on and everything like that, and yeah, your ego turns around and goes, hey, look at me, you remember this, that, the other. What do you like, what sort of checkpoints do you put in place to like go stop
the biggest thing I make sure of is that when somebody talks that I value and I trust, that I listen. The minute I stop listening is the minute I know my ego is getting too out of control, which never happens. So that's my checkpoint. Always be willing to listen to people in that regard.
Excellent. Excellent. So with regards to like your current journey, like where would you like it to take you?
I would like it to take me with our podcast to continue to rise up the ranks and be able to get to the next level and be able to create for us an ability to help as many people as possible and grow every other part of our business, speaking, consulting, all that kind of stuff. But it really comes into the facet of wanting to really have that be our main focus and our main driving point.
So if I came back to you in a year's time, like you would want the podcast to be number one, your speaking business to be like growing, ever expanding.
Correct.
And would it be a case of like, is there any other sort of personal marks or like journey?
No, I mean, just, honestly, man, just help as many people as possible. That's really what it's about, because that's the underlying theme of what we're doing, is helping as many people as possible get to that next level. And if we can do that, that's when great things happen.
And with helping as many people as possible, would I be right in saying you work with like kids as well?
Oh yeah, I've done. That's how I started. I started speaking for kids, youth football, Pop Warner, all that kind of stuff. So everything started, in that regard. So yes, that's kind of how it started, and it kind of grew from there.
And like being a person, a high achieving person, a good role model, I would say, for the community. Like, what has been like? Has any sort of the kids sort of given you any feedback or anything like that? How you may be helping them or whatnot, or have they
Oh
just?
yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, I coached a lot of kids and helped them with speaking and confidence and knowledge. And so again, and those kids helped me gain some confidence and the ability to speak and have things to say that were impactful and things like that. So absolutely, it was really important in that regard.
Brilliant. Now I have to ask, like, what has been two things you've been grateful for like one this year and maybe one this week?
Been grateful for our team because our team is just phenomenal in every regard. They work well together. We're all in sync. And then I'm just grateful that, for my family, of course, but also that I didn't give up on myself when times were hard in the beginning with speaking, because I could have easily thrown the towel in and said, this is not what I want. This is not going to, all this stuff. And then poof, I'm done. So in reality, that's exactly what I'm grateful for is our team, my family, and then of course that I never gave up when times were hard, in that process.
Mm. We're almost at the end. I have to ask if there was one person you could sit down with for a meal or a drink to like sort of tap into their wisdom, who would that be and why?
Dead or alive.
Doesn't matter.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I
Why?
would want to know from him how he just kept going, knowing his life was going to end short, knowing he wasn't going to live a full life to like have his kids grow up and see his grandkids, but he still did what he did to fight for a cause greater than himself. And he gave and sacrificed so much just to be able to do that in that regard. So it's really important that we're able to see that in that regard.
Mm. I have to quickly ask, what you see, what you're doing right now, do you see it as a career or a cause?
Oh, I see it as a cause. I mean, I see it as a cause to help as many people as possible because it's not about me, it's about them. It's about their success, their growth, their development, and that's what it's all about.
Mm. Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. Now, Marcus, like I have to say thank you for coming on today. You are a very interesting fella. Yes. Uh, I'm gonna just say this. We will tackle and tangle again in the future, I'm sure. But yeah, but for now, can you tell the lovely people how they can find you out there on these interwebs?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.marques, Marques, Ogden, Ogden.com. And they can connect with us. They can choose an email, marques@marquesogden.com, or we're on all social, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and just shoot us a message. We'd love to speak with you and interact with you.
Thank you. I will put all of the information into the show notes so you can get in contact with Marcus and yeah, have a nice conversation, a nice chat, and yeah, get tied into some of his inspiration. And hey, even a little download for the podcast as well. Marcus, thank you for coming on today. Superstar. Pleasure.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
No worries. Let me just say this to you, my friends, my life warriors. Thank you for sticking with us right to the end of the show. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a great day, guys. Peace. And we are